getting ready for double and talking about the new year and things coming on in the new year. And I spoke tremendous in the last pray 2 years on Elijah, because we had a whole series on taking up Elijah's mantle. But I want to show you some things. In 2 Kings chapter 2, I want to read this text, and it will be very familiar to you. It says, "And Elijah took his mantle and rolled it up and struck the waters, and they were divided here and there, so that both of them crossed over onto dry land. And it happened when they crossed over, Elijah said to Elisha, 'Ask what I shall do for you before I am taken away from you.' And Elisha said, 'Please let a double portion of your spirit be upon me.' And he said, 'You have asked a hard thing, but if you see me taken from you, it shall be so to you, but if not, it shall not be.' And it happened as they went on and talked, behold, a chariot of fire and of horses and a fire came and separated between both of them. And Elijah went up in a tempest into heaven. And Elisha saw, and he cried, 'My father, and the chariot of Israel and its horsemen.' And he saw him no more, and he took a hold of his clothes and tore them into pieces." Right there, let me just share this right there with you. When back in Jewish history, when they would tear their clothes or when they would rent their clothes, that meant that they were in mourning or in grieving. But I was reading a history book that I have of Israel, and I went to the part where they were talking about this 2 Kings, and another meaning for that, the reason or the purpose that they would rent their clothes was a physical awareness, so that they would be in mourning or grieving, so that somebody else would see that they were in grieving. But it also meant, because of the grieving process, they would never be the same again. So that they would rent their clothes, and like if you was using it in the natural, because of usually they did that when like experienced death, and so they would be grieving, and so they would rip their clothes, saying, "I'm never going to be the same again because this person is out of my life." Well, we take this in the spiritual, because Elijah, his mentor, had just went into heaven, and now because he's asked and he's grieving, he's renting his clothes through the grief. But I believe it's in the spirit. He's saying, "You know what? Because I asked and I saw and I persevered, I will never be the same again."
Yes,
I will never be the same again. Look what it says. "And so Elisha saw, and he cried, 'My father, the chariot of Israel and its horsemen.' And he saw them no more. And he took a hold of his clothes, and he tore them into pieces. And he also took up the mantle of Elijah, which had fallen from him, and went back and stood by the bank of Jordan. And he took the mantle of Elijah that had fallen from him, and he struck the waters and said, 'Where is Jehovah, the God of Elijah, even he?' And he also hit the waters, and they parted here and there, and Elisha went back over." Now we have to, when we want to receive double, there's something that you have to get here, and I don't want to read the whole chapter because that would take up too much time. But if you'll understand, and I've even taught on this exhaustively, that he had to go from certain places to certain places to certain places to reach getting double. See, a lot of times you and I, we get impatient. We hear the word of the Lord and we think, bam, it's going to happen right now. But Elisha went through a process of servanthood. Elisha went through a process of doing nothing but learning. Elisha went through the process of nobody even knowing who he was. And the Bible never mentions nothing but him, but that he was the one that poured water on his hands until we come to this point in time right here. So he's getting ready because he understands that I want what Elijah wants. And if I want what Elijah has, I must follow in his footsteps. And so he goes through a process. And I understand that even though a lot of people are not here, I understand that when we talk about our church, not everybody is going to want this process. How many understand that?